Welcome to OThinking Dungeons, a channel designed to create successful DMs from successful players. What are 3 things you need to avoid while running your first few games? I'm your host and DM Manny, and let's talk design. So, 3 things you need to avoid when running your first few games. Now, let's move into the first one. And this is an important one. Some argue that it is the most important one. And that is keeping the game fun. If your players aren't having fun, they're not going to come back, are they? And worse still, they might start telling other people, "Oh, I tried that D&D thing and I didn't particularly enjoy it." So, how do I keep it fun, Manny? Now, the important thing is, they need to be interacting more than you talking or anything else. So if you're doing a lot of this, and your players start doing this, you really need to cut more of this out and encouraging more of this. So, have them interacting more. The other thing is to encourage them to experiment. Your players will always outsmart you. And I think that is one of the joys of running a D&D game. My players are always thinking of ways to bypass the things I'm doing or to create crazy solutions to some of the things that I've created. Now, the secret to this is this happens to everyone. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. The other secret to this is you as a DM have the power to make rules on the fly, DCs on the fly. And sometimes their idea isn't a very good one. So, if it's a good idea, you make the DC or the difficulty, the number they need to reach or roll, if it's easy, closer to 10. If it's harder or very difficult, you make that number closer to 20. And maybe even past that. So, for example, maybe one of the mage decides he's going to shoulder charge a iron door and break it down. You can make that, you can sort of go, alright, there's basically no chance of that happening. You might even say you don't succeed. Or rather, I'm not going to make you roll because there's no chance of that happening. Or you set the DC like 28 or 30. But what if one of the players decides, hey, I'm going to cast Frostbolt on the hinges and the locks of the door. And Krug, he's going to use his crowbar on the hinges. And the warlock, he's going to start spraying acid on the door. And we're going Dominu, he's going to use a horse and he's going to tie a chain around the iron bars on the door. And we're all going to work together to open up this door. A bit extreme, but you'd probably make the DC or maybe, the DC something like 8 or 10 because it's very likely they're going to get through that door. And so, understanding this skill will make you a very successful DM. Anyway, this also leads into my next point. Encourage consequence. Sometimes their idea is incredibly stupid because they've overlooked or they've focused too much on one solution and not realized it was a poor one in that situation. This is like opening, let's say, lighting a torch inside the sewage tunnels under the city. Or maybe one of your players decided to jump off a cliff to try and catch the ring as it was falling off. Allow your players to have their consequence. Your other players will laugh and point and have fun. And you really need to create this idea that your world's real. The real world is full of consequences, both good and bad. So keep the game fun. Let them interact. Let them experiment. Let them have their consequences. You decided to lick that poisonous berry? Roll me a constitution roll. Tip number 2. Keep the game running. Your players are always going to start slowing down and doing some strange stuff. Sometimes, now let me give you an analogy. So I think of D&D as a collective storytelling illusion, okay? And the more the group of you focus on building this illusion, the more real it becomes. Now, if you start breaking your attention away from this illusion and maybe reading through the rulebook, or maybe you start searching online for the solution, the illusion that you had falls away. So, I encourage keeping the game running by basically making up a ruling on the fly. You should always choose to make them up on the fly and then look up the correct rule later. That is a DM's secret. And also a secret. After the game, if you have a next one, or when you have your next one, or on the forum, whatever you're doing, tell your players what the correct ruling is. They will give you much respect, and they will, They will basically give you, I guess, maybe not an accolade, but just basically the respect for looking that sort of thing up. Okay. The other thing is, timekeeping is a very important thing to do. So, there's a few ways to do this. There's the simple way, which I'll cover in this video. I'm going to make a video on timekeeping in another video. That's something to look forward to. But basically, some of your players need to be somewhere after the game. And it's important to you that you also let your players leave the game having a very good experience or a complete experience. Timekeeping is very important for you as a DM because it is one of those crucial skills that will make your game have some momentum to it as well. Alright? So, I'm going to give you an example where timekeeping wasn't used well. And basically, what happened was there was a group of scientists and engineers who got together and were playing a game. And basically, one of them cast Wall of Force, which is basically an invisible barrier of wind and basically an invisible barrier of energy that would stop things from passing through it. They did this because they wanted to stop a wall of water from going through and demolishing a town or something. That sparked a massive debate because one half of the table was trying to work out, wait a minute, that's not possible for that wall of force to hold back that much mass. The other group was, yes, it's very much possible. We can totally do that. And what happened then is they devolved into 4 hours of physics, maths, and debate, and research, and so many arguments to try and work out whether Wall of Force had enough power to stop that amount of water from passing through. And it wasn't very fun, I can tell you, for that one person who was new to the table and was not a scientist/engineer. So, keep your players moving. How do you do that, Manny? Well, the secret to this is tell them or have time pass while they're debating. So there's multiple ways you can do this. One way is to tell them, yeah, you notice that when you turn around and go back to look at the noble, he's walked off. Oh, maybe we shouldn't have spoken so long. And then, when they go back to talk to the noble, you obviously do not know what you want. I want you to set an appointment with my secretary, and we will talk tomorrow once you have your act together. Until then, goodbye. Another way to do it is, maybe they've spent so much time arguing about what they need to buy at the shops, the shopkeeper is putting his close sign on. And now they need to wait till tomorrow to do their shopping. Sometimes you don't even need to be that rough. Maybe they've spent so much time arguing that you tell them the sun is setting. Or maybe 2 hours have passed. Or 1 hour has passed. Funnily enough, they will pick up on this. There's always this need to conserve time. And your players will get a move on. So, moving on to tip number 3. Okay? And this one is review. If you've put 3 hours worth of time into making this game, 4 hours, maybe more, into creating this scenario, creating this game, preparing for this game, you owe it to yourself to spend the 10-15 minutes at the very end of the game and saying, hey guys, what did you enjoy and what did you hate? And go around, oh, I love the way you embellished all these characters, but I really hated how long it took us to, travel across the world. I quite enjoyed that moment when Billy fell down the side of the cliff and we all had to work together to try and rescue him because he was kept falling and taking more and more damage. That was hilarious. But I didn't quite enjoy that bit at the start where you talk for an hour straight. This is possibly the most concise way you can fine-tune your experience for the group you're running with, and is possibly the greatest source of information and learning you can gather as a DM. So, review at the end of the game. You owe it to yourself and all the hard work you've put in. So, that comes to the end of the video. Let's have a quick review. First rule, keep the game fun. Second rule, keep the game moving. Final rule, number 3, make sure you review at the end of the session. I hope this video was of help to you, and tell me about your success down in the comments. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, the price of it is one of your thumbs. Please put it on the pressure plate below. And if you didn't know, OThinking Dungeons also has a podcast where you can listen to us muck around and hurt ourselves playing D&D. That link is down in the little box below as well. And finally, if you'd rather avoid random encounters, please click the subscribe button so you are notified when I upload my next video. Until then, my name's Manny, and I hope you've had a good time with OThinking Dungeons.